Hey everybody, my next guest is a comedian and an author who has written and hosted for FLN's Wingman, along with two web series, Love Somerville and How to Blank a Man, both which received over 1 million views worldwide. He also authored a dating column for Glamour magazine entitled Jake, A Man's Opinion. Here he is, the one and only relationship guru and comedian, Michael Somerville. Michael, how you doing, man?
You couldn't even say relationship guru with a straight face. I see how.
No, I think it's awesome. I think you are somewhat of a relationship guru. You know, if you look back at your career your path here.
Yeah, I like to think that I imparted some decent advice. My wife would disagree, but yeah, I think we had a lot. If nothing else, we had a lot of laughs along the way. That's for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, looking back at your stuff and your body of work, I always see, you know, like especially with the How to Blank a Man, it's a lot of like relationship. It's, you know, you and either a wife or a girlfriend or something like that, and all these kind of things that happen. So I
Yeah.
think that's pretty cool. What kind of sparked that whole side of you to kind of go that route?
Well, when I first started doing comedy, you kind of write about everything. You don't know who you are and what to talk about, so you just write about family and life and the relationships. But I found like relationship material was getting the most response from audiences. It felt like that was where everyone sort of leaned forward and like both men and women could laugh. I guess I was doing it just unknowingly in sort of a way that wasn't putting one side down too much. It was always a little even handed. So yeah, so I started writing more relationship stuff for stage. And then, like every comic, I thought maybe I can get a sitcom. Maybe I can. So I started writing pilots and all this stuff, and getting no answers and no deals, and Hollywood wasn't calling. So I just started making the sketches on my own, and thought it would be fun. They make me laugh. They're fun to act out. And I said, we'll just hire some actors, and they'll come in and play like you say, my significant other, and just do these little 1 minute sketches. So they're fun to make, and they're kind of a way to say, like, all right, if I can't have a sitcom, I can just make my own little thing.
Looking forward to your guys' weekend.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. These guys are crazy.
You're supposed to say you're gonna miss me.
Oh, so sorry. I love you.
I love you more. You're supposed to say you love me more, and then we go back and forth.
Oh, I love you more.
It doesn't count if I have to tell you.
They are like little sitcom scenes, and I love how you're able to kind of tap into the everyman and the every relationship type of thing that seems to be timeless. I mean, that's a special gift to kind of find those moments.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and again, I can't take any credit other than just I write the stuff that happens and makes me laugh, and it always amazes me that there's so many people. I mean, well, initially as a stand-up, you go to a club wherever, you normally in the United States somewhere, and the people there laugh. But now that they're online as sketches, I get like emails from Nigeria and like all over the place, and everywhere. Guys are going through the same exact stuff everywhere in the world. It's really kind of wild to see. You're like, wow, the people in Albania are right with me. That don't leave your shirt in the apartment. So it's kind of gratifying. I mean, no matter how different we think we may be, it's all the same stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, you're able to kind of find that and kind of bring it to light in a fun way, in a funny way, where I think both sides, the men and the women in the relationship, could kind of chuckle at it, go, "That is us. That's us. This is so us."
Absolutely, yeah. And again, stand up remains like the testing ground for that stuff. I still love that I can write jokes, go to a club, say it on stage, and get your. It's like a testing ground, right? To see if it is funny, if it is true. If one side, if all the women are oohing, you go, okay, well maybe that's a little mean, but so yeah, it's a fun process.
We play those little games, right? I say I love you. My girl would be like, I love you more, and I'd be like, I love you more. I love you more. Try that after years with the same person. Say, I love you. I love you more. Yeah, you're probably right.
And since I've been writing those, I got married, and it's funny because, as you said, whether is it your spouse, is it your girlfriend, and I also like that about them. They're not specific necessarily to you have to be married or you have to be just dating. A lot of them are simply whatever stage you're in. you're going through this stuff. And so they're fun. They're a lot of fun to make, and they're doing really well online. And so like I said, it's just in this business that doesn't give you a lot back, it's gratifying to have people enjoying them.
For sure. And you must get a lot of that, like if you're out to dinner with another couple or something like that, where they're like, "Oh, Michael, we got something for you. You should do one on," like.
Yeah, absolutely. But 99% of the time, those people who approach you or tell you, "Oh, we got something you can use," is rarely is it usable. It's always like, "No, that's just an annoying." I was having a dinner one night with the group, and they just thought this couple, they thought they were the funniest things on the planet. And they go, "Oh, you're going to do a whole hour just about us, aren't you?" And, in my mind, I'm like, "No, actually, I don't ever want to think about this after tonight." I mean, it's just.
Dude, that's so true. So many people say that, especially to comics, or if they know you're a writer or whatever. "Oh, you wait till you meet my friend," or, "Hey, you spend the day with me, you're gonna have a whole bunch of material, man."
Yeah.
Like, it's funny how people think they're the most interesting, or that you didn't think of those ideas before.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's always And then the people who don't want to be talked about, you're like, "Ooh, I want to talk about that." That's
yeah, exactly. I know Charles Schultz, the guy who made Charlie Brown. He was notorious for not wanting anyone's idea. He would actually get mad if you offered up advice. "Hey, what would be great for Charlie Brown?" He'd just be like, "Stop! I do Charlie Brown." Yeah,
I love it. Yeah, because he wanted it all to come from his mind and his. Yeah.
I'm kind of a purist or a fanatic. I draw the whole thing. I would not want someone to come up to me and say, "I like that strip you had last Friday," and have to admit that I didn't think of it or that I didn't draw it. No, I think of every idea. I would not use an idea that someone suggested. And I draw every strip, I letter every word, because this is what I do. This is my life.
I love that. I can kind of relate to that too. And then when someone offers me a joke idea, I'm like, "Nah, I don't want to." I almost don't. Even if I like the joke, I don't think I'd ever like it enough because I didn't think of it. And there's kind of a purity to coming up with your own concepts. My dad's constantly emailing me joke ideas, and I feel bad because he's retired and just wants to do something. And so I always tell him that you may never see directly what you sent me on stage because it doesn't work that way, but it all goes into the cauldron and it all comes. So definitely you have influenced jokes. So that was my answer to try to make him feel good about all the emails he sent.
And it's true too, because like I'm the same way. I'm more of a writer, like screenplays and stuff like that. But it's the same thing when people give you ideas. They go through a filter in your head, and you're gonna use it, but maybe not the way they intended you to use that idea.
Absolutely, 100%. Which and not only that, but your own ideas, right? I mean, that's called rewriting. I mean, the stuff that you initially think, all of a sudden it's different. There's a different angle. Yeah, no, absolutely nothing. And I mean, I used to think I could sit down and just write a joke or anything and be done with it. And then you hear, "Now you got to work on it." And I never wanted to. I'm like, "No, it's perfect the way it is." And then you sure enough, you go through the process. Or if you ever look at old notes from old material, you think, "Oh gosh, yeah, now I see what that joke is," or "Now I know." Or even if you just do an album or a special or shoot something, and you see it on TV or just listen to it, and you're like, "Oh, I could make that better because of A, B, and C." I mean, I don't know if we're ever happy or satisfied, right? But that's a good thing, I think. You shouldn't be.
Yeah, your mind's always evolving. You're always critiquing, and you're always in a different place than when you were originally. And that's why too. Like if I'm writing notes on, let's say I have an idea today, and I write it down, and then you find it. You don't necessarily look for it. You just, here's an old notebook, and then you'll be like, "Oh wow, this had some legs," and then you could,
That's exactly right. Yeah. No, and I literally just went through this process this past week. I was in Las Vegas. And so for the flight out and back, I brought a bunch of old stuff that, I have these files that I just know I don't ever want to get rid of. And I have little notes on them, the last date I read them or opened them or looked at them. And sure enough, the flight out and back from Vegas, which is a nice 5-hour chunk, I just spent going through all these old thoughts, and sure, there's absolutely pages and pages of stuff that I pulled, and I said, "Oh, I could see an opportunity there now, or there's something to that I didn't see because either I wasn't a good enough comic at the time, or just a little time and perspective helps." But it's a constant process. I think it's Seinfeld who famously said he has every notebook ever.
Yeah,
he has an office here in New York, and he doesn't throw anything out. And he'll go back and he'll have jokes that, he's been working on for 5-10 years, and he still tries to find what the joke was. And I think that's part of the fun for the process, right?
Yeah, I think it's it's definitely part of the process, and I think, like you said, it is fun because you're putting together. It's almost like a hobby. You're building something. You're creating, you're
Yep.
creating something for like Seinfeld or for you or whoever. You might be trying to create the perfect joke or the perfect,
Yeah.
like what could I? Because I think a lot of creatives are always trying to competing with them within themselves, and they're trying to do better than their last thing.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure. You're always trying to, well, you're always kind of chasing something, right? And you're never quite satisfied with what you have. And yeah, you want that perfect joke, you want the perfect set, but you're never going to get it. I mean, you're going to get temporary satisfaction for something you've accomplished, and you have to appreciate those moments. But I think the day you think you're great and you're satisfied and you're perfect and you're the best is you're done. Or, we all know some performers like that. Like, God bless you, collect your money. You believe you're great. But yeah, no, I don't think you're ever quite satisfied. And I think Ray Romano once said, he's like, I think I've got a great hour. And the truth is, I just throw out the oldest 10 minutes that I never really liked anyway, and then I add another 10, and it's just a constant process.
Just constantly working on it and building
Yeah,
it, and I think that's what art is.
yeah.
Like they said, that one of the hardest things. This is like I forget who it was Picasso, was some famous painter said that the hardest part of painting is knowing when to walk away, knowing when it's
Hmm.
done.
I believe it. I mean, you can see that too, right? It's true of what we do as well. I mean, you never stop. You can constantly keep going and keep working on things. When I was on Letterman for the first time, I had probably 4 or 5 months to prepare, knowing it was coming, and the set was done. And so that was the strangest time because you have 5 months where the words are the words and they've been approved by legal and everything. And now you're just sitting there running them and practicing them in your apartment and saying them ad nauseum. And that's when you start to really find weird stuff like, oh, I wish I could change that. I wish I could tweak that. But you can't because that's, you were told that's what you're going to say. And so I just ran that set probably 200-300 times in my apartment to the mirror. And just because I knew if nothing else, I had to say those words. Let me make sure that I don't have any, I know them and I'm bulletproof. And I got to the point where I ran it so much. One of my opening jokes was, I can't believe it's almost September. That was the first line I said. And I ran it so many times that I would forget what month it was when I was practicing. I'd be like, I can't believe it's almost April. No, I can't believe. I mean, I was just like, so, too much in your head. And that's the day I said, all right, I think I'm ready. I think I can.
Thank you very much. The year is going fast. It's almost September. Guess I can stop trying to get in shape for summer.
So that's crazy. So like when you do it in a Letterman or something like that, you have to, obviously they have to approve at least back then you had to approve your routine, your 5 minutes, and then you had to stick to it word by word. So you couldn't vary out, change anything. And then you have to sit on that for 5 months. That's a lot, man.
Well, yeah, and that's, I think, uncommon because there were new bookers and they were getting ahead of the game and finding comics they liked and saying, we love it, here's the set, now we just have to get you on. So I think they probably had a little bit of a backlog of comedians. I think normally the process wouldn't work that way. Although, I mean, you hear about comics getting bumped and whatnot and certainly sitting around waiting for an opening. But yeah, it was a long lead time. And to answer your question, I mean, I was told, this is what's approved, this is what you got to say. And I went to 8 years of Catholic school, so I was saying exactly those words. I wasn't going to go off script. I did 4 Lettermans. By the third one, I actually did an entirely new joke that I hadn't even mentioned to them because I felt so comfortable and I liked the joke. And I did get bumped. I got bumped, and I was waiting for my next spot. And in that time, I was working on the set going, God, this is a joke that would fit perfectly. So I never even asked permission. I just did it. No one ever said a word. And I was like, all right. So yeah, sorry, God. I'll go right to church.
So you were on Letterman during the CBS era, or were you on the NBC?
CBS 2012. I was on 4 times basically in his last like two and a half years. So 2012 to 2015. And yeah, it was great, including his first comic on his final season. Wow. So and true to form, like the one thing you want as a comic, at least I wanted my whole career, is to be on Letterman. And I got on, he liked me, they had me back, 3 times, and then he retired, and that was that. Yeah, all right. So I started making internet sketches.
What's it when you're doing something like Letterman? Does he come back into the green room and say hi or anything like that? Did you get a chance to have any kind of one-on-one time with him?
Not at all. I literally tell people our entire relationship was televised. You don't meet him beforehand. He doesn't talk to you afterwards. In fact, there's a rule when he goes into the hallway. If he wants to walk around the building there at the theater, they had to lock everything down, so there would be no one in the hallway. So the radio word would go out, and everyone say, "Stay in your room," because Letterman's going to walk somewhere. So he literally didn't want to pass other people in the hallway. That's how kind of quirky he is. So yeah, you don't meet him. You don't know anything about him. And the funny story is I started, like, the first time I went on, it went great. He comes up behind you. You're also told once you're done, say goodnight. Look at the audience. Don't look for him. He may come up next to you and say, good job. He may not. Don't turn around. You just face forward. And so your first time I said goodnight, I got a big applause. Everything went great. He came up, said, good job. I said, thank you. Shook his hand. Got on a second time, same thing, went well. And then by the third appearance, I realized that was my only chance to actually say something to him, because I wasn't going to talk to him, and I wanted to say something that impressed him. So I was going to do a quick, because you have like 8 seconds maybe as they're going to commercial. Once your set's over, he's kind of right there, and he just turns again and goes, great job, nice to see you. And I wanted to say something to make it look like, I was working hard. And that's all I said to him. I just turned. He goes, thanks for coming again. And I go, work hard. And that's all I said. And then he just walked away. And I was just like, what did I? But I was trying to like I'm working hard. I've been really going. I just go, work hard. And so that was my parting words to Letterman.
You gotta. I don't know if you. I hope you did. Call one of your specials work hard.
That's exactly what I should do. Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to, you want to say something that's going to have a light bulb go off and have him want to produce a sitcom like he did for Ray, but apparently it wasn't. Work hard, what didn't do the trick.
Do you guys think I'm hot? Am I hot? Am I hot?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Why are you laughing?
It's a weird question.
If I had to be honest, I'd put you like a 5. Like
5.
5.
On a scale to 4. Caliente.
2.
Si.
You kind of were doing on the street interviews before, like, they become what they are today. Like with social media, you got, all gas, no break type of stuff with those guys out there, hot tui on that thing. Yeah. You were kind of on the ahead of the curve on all that man on the street stuff back then.
Oh, well, I did a lot of, exactly, back in 2000, like the 2000s, I would say. Yeah, I started getting, the technology got to the point where you could do stuff like that and run out. And it was fun. And I was quick. I think people liked my improv style and my interaction and everything, getting laughs out of them. I did some of that early. God, I feel like this is like an end memoriam. Like, yeah, you had a good run, Somerville. You're
kicking ass now too.
You
man.
had a good chance at a sitcom. That was too bad. But yeah. It is funny though. You look back on some of that stuff and you go, yeah, gosh, the man on the street. You're right. It is. It's so obviously now it was so quick and easy and cheap to produce. I guess that's why it became so popular. But yeah, it's not all done well. That's the difference. You just see, that's the frustrating thing too, when you see people doing stuff and they're just not doing it well. And you're like, man, you take the time.
Exactly. You see a lot of the younger people today, they take for granted the technology that they have, and they just kind of go out there and they don't put as much into the pre-production side of it. I'd say they don't put too much thought into it, and every once in a while they get lucky with something that hits. Yeah, and then then all of a sudden, like that guy, I can't think of his name, the guy from No Gas, All Gas No Breaks, got his own HBO show and all that kind of stuff. It's like he's some kind of journalist, gonzo journalism or something like that. But if you don't develop a muscle, that's the thing. I have no problem with different alternative styles, but like the one thing I did as a stand-up was I developed a muscle for 25 years of that's kind of bulletproof. I know how to be funny. I know how to be quick on stage. I know how to edit my words. I know how to self-direct. I mean, there's a lot of strength. And then when you get someone young who, it's fine, to have success or make a video that works, but you don't have anything to fall back on. You just made a video that got lucky.
and or you hawk two at someone, and it just, and now it's like, all right, well, now what? Do you have chops, and would you have to sustain that? And if not, that's also okay. Then put your money away now, because. But I mean, I work with Kathleen Madigan sometimes. It's one of my favorite things about Kathleen is she's just such a great stand-up, and she started 35 years ago and just did the work and continues to do the work and has risen because of that. Is now just selling out theaters all over the country because she's just that good of a stand-up that everyone wants to see her. And doesn't have any huge TV or movie credits, just known as someone who you can have a great night out, and that's that's a strong muscle to have.
Yeah, shout out to Kathleen Madigan. She's a real deal comic out there, just grinding it out and making it happen. She's hilarious. I mean, if anyone watching this does not know who she is, you got to check out Kathleen Madigan for sure. She's awesome.
In fact, we'll be at the Paramount, if anyone's on Long Island listening. We'll be at the Paramount on January 31st together.
Nice.
Didn't even think about that. I don't know when this is going to air, but yeah.
It's there before then, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Friday the 31st. I think there's 2 shows, like 7 and 9:30 or something.
Heck yeah, man! I'll try to come out too, man. That'd be awesome to see you.
Yeah, let me know. Definitely, I'll see what I don't know what I get comp ticket wise, but I'm happy to try.
I'll go right to the old school. Pay for my ticket. No, you're the best, man. But yeah, man, like I said, you're seeing a lot of your sketches. You're still doing it, man. You're still putting out hilarious content all the time. People should check you out, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram or however, or YouTube.
All of it, yep. Whatever there is. Although it's funny today, my wife was telling me something about this guy's album who was coming out, and she was reading it to me off of his post, and it was like, it's going to be on all your favorite like audio whatever, and then they named like 3 or 4 of them, and I didn't know any of them. I mean, I know like Spotify and Apple Music. It was none of it. It was like Shububigi and Bagu. I mean, just these are the popular things. I don't even know these platforms. It was just it was embarrassing.
I know. I never thought I'm 53. I'll be 54 this year. I never thought I would be lose touch with pop culture. I never thought it would happen to me.
Yeah.
Like I was I'll keep up with the kids. What are they?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But now I'm like, like you said, I don't know what half of this stuff is. The music is like, if I watch the Grammys, I don't know who any of these people are.
Isn't that crazy? And the Emmy Awards now too. Even the TV shows. I'm like, wow, it's the stuff's on networks I don't even know about. Like it's all these internet stations, and I mean, what happened to NBC? It's all different. It really, and I'm with you too. I thought, no, I'll always be relatively hip, and it happened quickly.
Yeah, like happened so quickly because having kids would kind of keep you tapped in to some degree, but you still lose track of it,
Yeah. Well, and then it also makes you feel old too, because all of a sudden kids look at you like you're just grandpa. You're just like, I have a niece and nephew who are in their teens, and I try to like ask them, hey, what's going on the phone? Like, well, because I'm curious to know what are the kids watching. And they look at me like they're gonna call the police or something. Like, what is this? What's this old guy looking at my phone for? And I was like, I just wanted to see what you guys are up to,
That's another thing, man, that gets me being older, especially older guy, is now if I talk to younger girls, even if I'm asking them the time or hey, or directions. Yeah. Now I'm creepy all of a sudden. Why is this guy talking to me?
Right. Because I want to know the time. That was
I'm not trying to hit on you, sweetheart. Like
it's a very strange.
Yeah, we get boxed into these things. It's crazy getting old guy issues, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, you don't see yourself that way, so it's weird to be like, yeah. There was a bar in Atlantic City called the Chelsea Pub, the 24-hour bar. And I used to work at the Tropicana down there, and I loved it. It was like I was brand new to comedy. It was 2003, 2004, and I just couldn't believe that there was bars that were open 24 hours. And we would have 2 shows a night. We'd finish the show, and then we'd go over and get a drink at like whatever time it was, midnight or something. And it was always a wild bar because it was 24 hours. So you had everything from cops to prostitutes to blackjack dealers who had just gotten off their shift. I mean, and the later you stayed, the more characters there would be. But I remember once it was a huge long bar, and there was a mirror behind the bar. the whole length. So you could actually like see down the bar by looking in this mirror and just see all these characters. And I remember, so we used to go and get a drink or whatever. And one night we were sitting there, and you felt like you were kind of this young, hip, cool comedian. And I don't remember what year it was, but I remember rather than look down the bar, I just looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not 22 anymore." Like you just you think you're like this kind of. And I look at it going, "Oh shoot! Like I look more like them than I thought I did." This whole line of misfit toys, and you're like, "Oh, I sort of look like I belong here." This is not. Yeah, I remember that was the first one I ever had. I was like, yeah, you're not the fresh young face you thought you were.
That's how I feel when I look at old friends from high school on Facebook, and I'm like, "Wow, he sure looks old now." And then I'm like, "Hold on, wait a second."
Yep, exactly. Yeah, like, what does that mean about me? Yeah, I still think we look great. I don't care what they say.
One time I was mowing my lawn outside, right, and I had no shirt on, and there was these younger girls across the street, and they're looking at me and they're giggling. So I honestly thought that they were like giggling, like shy, like, "Oh my God, he's so hot." So I'm like, I felt like I was mowing in slow motion and everything. So I went inside, and then I looked at myself in the mirror. And I had that reality check, and I'm just like, "Oh my God, they were laughing at me, man."
Yeah. My body was shaking from the vibrations of the lawnmower. Yeah,
my chest.
Yeah. It's not. We are not what we think. Good and bad, by the way.
Yeah, but I feel like we're young at heart.
Yeah,
I feel like we are younger than our parents were at this age.
I think that's true, and maybe probably it's a luxury that we have, that we, I didn't have to. My parents had to work hard, and they started having kids young, and I always joke that my dad worked hard. My parents worked their asses off to give me a life that they couldn't have, and now they resent me for having it.
That's great.
Yeah, they look at me like, "You pretty." But I don't know. We're doing something. I think there's something to being in the business and being funny, and I think it keeps you, energetic, keeps you young. There's a club owner in Florida. I can't remember the name of the club, but he said, he never met a comedian in his however many years who lost their mind or got old, and sort of like, he's like, and I think it's because you guys are always writing and always thinking and always so you're using your brain. And really till you die. And so he said, I never really felt like I knew a comic who lost it relative to other people he knew, in his life. And I'm sure there's something to that.
Yeah, I think there's something to that for sure. Because like you said, your mind's always thinking. You're always trying to find the punchline or the storyline or what have you. And if you look, even with musicians, look at the Rolling Stones, or you could name countless bands that are still out there rocking out in the 70s.
There you go. Yeah,
probably the same type of thing, because they're they're
being creative and using and God knows they gave their bodies a run for their money. So they're still ticking. Yeah.
It's the fountain of youth, man.
They're doing something right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know. It's interesting. I think it's a beautiful thing about what we do is you can do it. You can do it forever. It's not manual labor. I mean, the traveling can get old, but other than that, you can stand on a stage. Now, there is that interesting thing of, do you get less funny, as you get older? I mean, some people talk about that, like Chevy Chase and certain performers, are you still funny when you're older?
Yeah.
And that always worries me. I'm like, do you get to a point where you're not funny? But, some stand-ups you look at to a ripe old age, they were great. So, I don't know.
I think too is, as long as you're open to evolving, you're gonna maintain being funny, as long as and then if being around the next generations, because a lot of the clubs and stuff like that, you got all age levels, and you kind of, that's where for me I get lost in my age. I don't realize how, like you said, how old I am, because I'm talking to 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds, they're all, and we're all equal,
Exactly. Yeah. No, and that's true. I think that's in this, New York area too. It is a little more like age is a little less important than some other places where you go. You're like, don't talk to me. You're 20 years older than me.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, it's a little less to hear. You're like, everyone's, I feel like everyone's the same age unless you're like 20 or 80, everyone's got to,
Right.
I don't know. Maybe a girl 15 years younger than me would not agree, but that's like we're all in the same, same world. I don't know. But you have kids?
Yeah, I have a bunch. I started young. I started like 19 years old, so I have kids in their 30s.
Oh,
I
wow.
have grandkids.
Oh,
Yeah,
man. Oh,
so
geez.
I have five kids total, two marriages,
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
and two grandkids.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah, so to
Oh,
keep me
well,
busy. Yeah,
congratulations. Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's, yeah. So you're a grandpa. There you go.
yeah. And I know
Yeah.
for you, you have a young one.
Two,
How many do you
two
have?
now. We just had our second. So yeah,
Hey,
we have one.
congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, 2 years and basically 4 months. Yeah. So yeah, definitely on the other end of it, just getting going and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it's it's fun. I always tell people, especially with young kids, savor the moments because they go fast. Like
Yeah.
as you're probably seeing now, you have two kids, so you know how it goes. You blink your eyes, and then they're 5 years old. Blink them to 10, and
Yeah.
it, so I always say savor the moments because you don't really realize how fast it goes. But also, as a writer of relationships and things like that, this must open up a new porthole of stuff you could
Yeah.
talk
No,
about and utilize.
definitely. Yeah. No, definitely a lot of stuff. And the funny thing is you don't have the time to write it. So I've been taking notes, and just constantly writing down little thoughts or observations, but I haven't had the same amount of time like I used to really sit down and actually, write out and work out some stuff. That's been the biggest change. I used to have my whole days to myself and go work on stand up and, think about jokes, go to the gym and like now it's just like, you're fast forward and then you lie down at night to go to bed. You're like, God, there were a lot of funny things happened, but
Yeah, I just want to go to sleep.
yeah, exactly. Not as much time, but that's the trick, though, right? You gotta get a little more discipline, a little more structure, which which I didn't have to have for years and years because I had no one else to worry about.
How old is your youngest?
4 months old as of this
Wow.
week. So yeah, brand
God
new.
bless. Yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations. This is
thank you
huge.
very
I'm
much.
grateful you took the time to talk to me today. You must be like
Yeah,
when it's the quiet time, this is your
it's
precious time right now.
it's exactly. He's napping right now. So yeah, this conversation will end when he decides, and but yeah, no, it's definitely been different. It's like you say, you get those windows of quiet or just a second, and it's horrible because you want to do everything, and then you want to do nothing, right? I mean, you just have a million things to do, but you're also like, I just want to sit and stare at the wall because it's
Yeah.
quiet right now, and so yeah, that's what I'm going through.
Yes, indeed. That's awesome, man. Yeah, those are the the like it's a very touchy time when they're that young because they need you for everything. They're not
Yeah,
anywhere near independent,
yeah.
so it's yeah, every minute you get with them is great, and then every minute you get when they're sleeping is great.
Which is also great. Yeah. Well, that's like I say. I mean, the thing that's really struck me is how bad at time management I am. I mean, I would just, when you have all day, every day to do one or two things, and then you usually don't get to them. But it's like, tomorrow I'll do it. It's the same thing. Now all of a sudden you just got, your time is not your own anymore, and yeah, that's been the biggest eye opener to me. It's just like figuring out how to do the stuff that I should do for me, and then obviously all the things they need, and yeah, it's been a challenge, and also I'm not young. You develop patterns and habits over the years, and so you're like, I'm used to this way, and all of a sudden it's not that way anymore. So I just was in Vegas last week. Like I said, I was performing there, and had booked this a while ago before baby number two came along, and so was able to still go, and but I've never appreciated a hotel room more in my life. I was just going to Vegas used to mean something very different. Now it's like every night after that show, I was in bed at 9:40. I was so happy. I was like, a little clicker, a little quiet, it was beautiful. Everyone's like, how's Vegas? I'm like, I don't even know. I went to bed.
It's a crazy life when Vegas is your peace.
Exactly. That's where you go to get a nice calm break. Yeah. It's where you zen out in Vegas, right?
Yeah. For you, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas is like a nice nap.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know what happened because I was asleep the whole time. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really true. Yeah, just leave me alone. I'm gonna be But no, times have changed. What are you gonna do?
Yes, indeed. Well, hey, man, there's nothing better than being a dad. It's the best job I ever had, and I know you must feel the same way, and it's rewarding beyond whatever any other things you could think of. So,
Well, when does that part kick in? Because right now I am just I'm tired and it feels pretty thankless. I do love though how everyone always says that like it's the best thing ever, like it's the greatest job, and then no one ever gives any examples. They're just always just. If anything, my buddies always bitch like I haven't slept in 8 months. My wife hates me. We're out of money. It's the greatest. It's the greatest thing that's ever happened. You're just like, what's the good example of? Tell me something positive.
I think you just wrote a sketch. I think you just wrote, and you wrote it so you could use it. I didn't do it.
Yeah, there you go. I can actually use it. Yeah.
Happy New Year, pal.
Oh, you too. How was your Christmas?
Great. The whole family showed up.
Really?
Yeah, just like old times. My Uncle Tony walked in and said, if anybody asks, I've been here since 8 o'clock. How about you?
The Irish are a little different. My uncle drank a bottle of gin and told me I looked familiar.
Nothing like family.
Slanja.
Chinda.
Me gusta.
I also love what you're doing with Adam Ferrara and a bunch of other comics I see in there. You guys got in the bar scene, and it's like really, I really love it. That's another kind of setup for what could be perhaps a sitcom premise.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Well, that was, same thing. It was, I had some ideas. I always look to do, well, we talked about like, quality versus quantity, right? When it comes to, all these kids who just like yell something into their computer or to their phone and then they get a zillion likes online and you're going, and I've never been a guy who wanted to do that. Like I wanted quality content. But obviously, you need to come up with stuff fast these days and because people are consuming content daily.
Yeah.
So I came up with really the way I did the relationship stuff and the way I did the bar ideas was try to create venues in which you could have quick conversations. Hold on one second. Are you getting feedback?
No.
Okay, good. The baby just woke up. My wife's in there. I just want to make sure it wasn't feedback. But anyway, my point was I wanted to be able to quickly make a joke and set up a camera and make a bunch of sketches at once. And so I always had an idea to do something in a bar like that. And I was like, well, if you do the corner of the bar and the cameras never move, you can shoot a bunch of them, in a day, which is exactly what I wound up doing. And just, quick back and forth conversations. But so the way that came about is I had an idea for some bar stuff. We shot a few things. I liked them, didn't love them, didn't go great online, but I liked them enough to try to do so. And I always loved Cheers, the sitcom Cheers.
Yeah.
And so I just thought it was just the funniest banter. And not that I was, trying to copy it, but certainly was, an homage, if you will, to it. But then Adam Ferrara approached me actually, and he said, I love what you're doing. You need a bartender. Because if you recall, the first few were just two guys at the bar.
Right.
And so I was like, I love it. And I hadn't had anything in mind, but when Adam Ferrara approaches you about, he said I would play a bartender. I went off and wrote the sketches, and I'm not sure that was one night at the Comedy Cellar. I'm not sure he even remembers saying that to me because I came back like 2.5 months later with scripts, going, okay, here they are. And he's like, he kind of was like, who are you? I'm the guy you said you like the things and you play a bartender. He's like, oh, and then he started doing like, oh, I'm not always in town. Like, I'm not sure if I'll be here. That guy. And I go, you tell me what date you're in town. He goes, I'll give you a date, but I might change. And I was like, no problem. And I just kind of booked it, and I got the camera guys. I got everything booked, and I just sort of held my breath, hoping if he bails, I'll just cast someone else in it. But he was there up until the night before. He's like, we're doing this. I'm like, we're doing this. See you tomorrow. And they went great. We had a couple that went really, got several million views, and so he wanted to make a bunch more, which we just did. And so we shot another 23 of them in one day. We shot 23 more, and they're all 30 seconds, 40 seconds. So you'll be seeing them for the next 6 months. We'll be posting a new one every Monday.
That's awesome, man.
And thank you.
Yeah, and I think they're great. They're hilarious. They're great. They're fast, like you said. They every one of them are funny. They all have a good payoff.
And, appreciate it.
Yeah, man. And so you write them all? Is like, does Adam chime in like, hey, why don't we do this way?
Yeah, well, this last round, yeah. So the first round, I wrote the first two round. I call them seasons, but the first two
Right.
seasons or whatever. And then this last season, I wrote all 23. But then he came back with a couple that he had ideas for. Because it's kind of like, I mean, I'm sure you see this all the time. Everyone's like, yeah, we'll write a bunch, and then I go off and actually write, and no one else writes,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Which I don't mind because that means I get to shoot exactly what I like, the stuff I think's good. But he did. He wrote 3 or 4 for this last round, and so we shot those as well. But yeah, mostly it's my stuff, and it's again they're quick and I go to my old stand up notes. I tend to pull from stuff I've already worked on. Like what do I have? A lot of times it's jokes that just never worked on stage. Have a concept. One of the ones that did the best was open face sandwich. We posted that, and it got 3, 4, 5 million views just like in a week. It was just these guys fighting about what is an open face sandwich. And that was actually just stand up that I used to try to write because I travel a lot. That's the open face sandwich. And I never understood the concept, and it never worked on stage. I just was trying to, and I can remember painful nights of trying to tell an audience, like, what's the deal? There's no top slice, it was just very, and the audience is just, but now sure enough, in sketch form, I mean, people, you give every guy a line. There's 3 of us in the thing, and then boom, it did great. And people all over the world are fighting about what is an open face sandwich. So, yeah, you never know. And that's the other thing I'd say is I never know when something's going to work. Like, when you write something, you think it's gold, Jerry, it's gold.
Right.
Yeah, and you're like, nope. But then the sketches that you don't expect or don't realize, they're the ones that have, done the best for whatever reason. And it's hard to predict what people are going to like, but yeah.
Yeah, it's weird like that. Like you say, like that happens all the time, even with me. You never know. Sometimes the throwaway thing is what does the best, and you're like, really? That I never dreamed that would be the one that everybody wants to watch or whatever. That goes viral.
Yeah, it's so strange that way. And once in a while, in retrospect, you'll be like, oh, I get it, because it's about breakups, or it's about you can see like, oh, I guess that's a topic that people would like. But no, I would say 9 times out of 10, you're just I would not have guessed that one. It was one that maybe I didn't even like. I've had jokes like that where I wanted to cut from an album, and my editor will be like, no, that's my favorite one.
Right,
and just because I trust my editor's instincts and he's worked with me for years, I go, oh, all right, leave it in. But so you never know, which is what I used to like about. I used to work on cruise ships, and there's those which are good and bad. And one of the worst things is if you have a bad show, you got to see everyone for the rest of the week.
Right.
You have a bad show at a club, you get to drive home, but at breakfast the next morning, Ethel's there telling you she didn't like your show. But but thankfully my shows they went generally well. And then what I loved about it was during the course of the week, people would approach you and tell you the jokes that they liked. And it's as annoying as it can be sometimes to be trying to eat lunch and have someone come over and try to tell you 9 jokes. It was always interesting for me to hear what they liked, because it wasn't necessarily the one. It was, again, sometimes something you were about to throw out or you just weren't believing in. And you hear enough people go, oh, I love that. And the other thing that they do would tell you why they thought something was funny. And that was always interesting to me, because the intention of the joke that I had wasn't necessarily the reason they were laughing at it. They took it in a different way. And I thought that was fascinating too. Like, that joke was funny to you for an entirely different reason than the reason I wrote it.
That's really awesome, because it's like getting a survey or like a brainstorm session for free, basically, of people, telling you all this insight and info that,
exactly,
you could build onto that.
Which you'd never get anywhere else in this business, right? I mean, I guess online people could critique or comment, but to have just a human being come up to you 2 days later and say, we were at the beach today all day talking about your set or your show, and these are the jokes we were telling, and it is. It's like a focus group.
Yeah, like a focus group.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I want to go back to cruise ships, though.
Yeah, cruise ships. I always hear different stories of like Greg Vaccarello. I don't know if you know Greg Vaccarello, great comedian, Long Island guy. He's a Vegas guy. Now he does the cruise ships. He loves it. He gets to see the world. He goes to Alaska all the time. Goes all the, and then other comics that I know that done cruise ships say it's a nightmare. They hated it. They're stuck on this ship for days on end or whatever.
But
to hear you seem like you're kind of in the middle, like there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, both are true, right? You get to go to some amazing places and see some great things. And yes, you're stuck on a huge ship. And depending on where you're going, I mean, there are bad cruises too. You could be stuck on a bad cruise on an undesirable cruise line where your room stinks and the food's terrible and you don't love you're just going to do whatever the little run of islands down in wherever, the little Jamaica, whatever. I don't know the places, but yeah, so there are bad cruises to be on, but largely though it's mindset. For me, I always brought projects, and so yes, you're on this ship for X number, and you're only, if you're on for 7 days, you only may perform 3 nights, and you have a lot of time to yourself. So I always brought projects. In fact, the How to Blank a Man, I literally created on a cruise ship. I knew I had a ton of time, and I knew I could either go and sit at the buffet and watch movies in my room, or do what, get off at some port and roam around, or I could be creative and productive with the time. And so that's what I always tried to do. I always tried to bring work that I could get off that cruise and go, all right, look what I just got done. Whether I wrote scripts, I wrote a TV show on a cruise ship, I wrote all those comedy sketches, I edited an album, I did a lot of stuff on ships. That, again, self-discipline, right? What's the difference though? If I was home, would I be lying on my couch watching TV, or would I, so just bring something to do. And then, but yeah, that said, there's no question you get cabin fever, you're stuck, you're lonely, your phone doesn't necessarily work. There's a lot of stuff that, stinks, and it's not for everybody. But I think you make the best out of the time, and then you get home and go, hey, I just got paid basically to work on projects that other projects. They paid me. I only had to do a couple of shows, and the rest of the time I was working on my career and getting paid to be here. So
that's a great use of the time, and that's the time management. That's the time management like you need now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, now I would just kill for a sea day, just a ship in the middle of nowhere where I could just sleep in a cabin and rock back and forth, like a big baby at sea. Oh, that would be amazing. But yeah, I think it's Vaccarella's right. I mean, I got to see Alaska, I got to see Hawaii, I got to go through the Panama Canal, I got to do a lot of cool stuff.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Check it off the list, and you don't, but yeah, at the same time, I understand people like, you miss land, you miss, human contact.
Right on, man. And I tell you too, like as a writer, at the core, you're writing all these great sketches, all these great stuff, whether it's with Adam Ferrara and at the bar sit, or if it's relationships with, like, Aaron McGuire or whoever you're working with at the time.
Yeah.
Have you ever sent anything in or auditioned for like SNL or anything like that through the years?
No, SNL I never pursued, because when I was coming up, they said you needed 3 impressions and 3 original characters, and I didn't have either. I didn't do impressions and I didn't do characters. And so I just literally never even considered it. And I think that still is roughly the rule, but not so much. Like Shane Gillis obviously auditioned and got it. He just did stand up for them and didn't really do impression. I guess he does the Trump, but so anyway, I never considered it for that reason. And it was probably right too. When I watched the show, I go, yeah, that guy's doing an impression, that guy's doing a bit, or, it was not quite right for me. So my goal though was then to host it. I go, okay, if I'm not going to be on it, someday I'll host it. And so that's still a looming, but who knows? We got 50 years this year. I don't know how long I'll be around, but I thought that would be a cool goal to go host it sometime. But yeah. Never did impressions or characters, and always loved them. I always loved comics who did. I just admire it. I think it's so funny to watch an original character or someone do an impression. But yeah, I could. All I know is my own voice.
No, that's awesome, man. And like I said, you're doing some great stuff. I don't know if you can hear my dog barking.
No,
sorry about that.
My kid was crying, so.
No, I think you're obviously doing some great stuff. I think everybody has to check out all the stuff you're doing, whether it's on, like I said, YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, or wherever you have it going on.
I'm on all of them. Yeah, I post it everywhere. Same stuff everywhere. So if it's not for lack of presence. Although whatever the new thing is today, I probably don't know about that. But if it's
exactly.
If it's one of the regular ones, I'm on there.
So where could everybody kind of find you and follow you and see all your stuff? Like, what's your handle?
Yeah, well, my website's just my name.com, michaelsomerville.com, and it's got links to everything. I would say Instagram is right now my biggest thing that's going on. I have the most views there. It's the most live and active kind of site. So that's just at Michael Somerville. Yeah, and not a ton of road travel coming up because the young baby at home. So I'll be around doing New York spots a bit in the new year, but not too many. No more Vegas trips on the calendar right now, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, online always, right? And that's the beauty again of like a time like this where I can't travel as much. It's hard to get out at night, so I can make sketches and post them. And I just posted a new one today, and it's already doing great. And you go, okay, so I'm not, keeps you feeling relevant, even if you're sitting here changing diapers, you're still out there.
Yes, indeed. And I know you're going to be here on Long Island January 31st at the Paramount with Kathleen Madigan. That's going to be awesome to see that. And we got to get you to Governor's Comedy Club. I don't know the last time you performed with us here.
It's been a long time. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, definitely. No, I'd love to come out, especially now that I'm, again, not harder to go on the road for long stretches. So it'd be easier just to come out there.
Yeah, just jump on a train or a quick drive out.
Yeah,
See you.
Definitely.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again so much. I know this is your quiet time with the babies.
Well, he's up, so it's over. Unfortunately.
Well, you're the best. Thank you so much, Michael Somerville, everybody.
Thanks for having me.